Here's a walkthrough of my approach to the waves puzzle. So the first thing I did is I organized my pieces by the number of edges. So this one has 4 edges, these have 2 edges, 1 edge, 0 edges. And then trying to figure out what we're dealing with here. So on the 2 edges you have these ones where the 2 edges are at an angle from each other, so these are going to be your corner pieces. And then here you have pieces where you have an edge on parallel sides. The other thing that's interesting here is there are only 3 kinds of connectors. You have your fat connectors, and fat connectors can fit into any other fat connector. You have your medium connectors here, so medium can fit into any medium. And you have your skinny connectors, and the skinny can fit into any skinny. And there are 2 of each of these. In our middle column, where you have just 1 edge, everything that's near the edge, so all of these guys here, these holes and these knobs, they are all fat. But the things pointing down this way, so this guy, this one, these little pieces here, these are all medium here, and these on the other side are all skinny. And you have 2 of each of that. And then over here in your third column, you have pieces that don't have any edge. On this first part, you have everything skinny. Skinny, 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 skinny. So there are only a few of these. There are only 4 where everything's skinny. Here, in this middle section, you have 2 mediums and 2 skinnies on everything. So everything is 2 medium, 2 skinny. And they're always right across from each other. And then in this last part, these are all mediums. And the other thing that's important to note here is almost everything is duplicated. The exceptions are your square, which is your centerpiece, your corner pieces, which are going to go on the very outside, and then you have 4 more unique pieces over here. And that's going to be really important because these unique pieces, so these guys and these guys, are going to be the reason you can't just make the whole puzzle symmetrical, because if you did, you would need 2 of everything. But you have these unique pieces, so that concept will come up again and again. Now when you're looking at where to begin, once you've outlined how many there is of everything, it becomes pretty apparent that you're going to need an outer edge, you're going to need kind of an inner edge to surround the square, and then connect it out. So these fat guys are going to make up an outer edge, but it's not quite enough, because to make a 7 by 7, you need 5 here, 5 here, 5 here, and 5 here, and there are only 16 of these. But if you steal the other fat guys from here, now you have a perfect 20. So just mathematically, it's so beautiful for all the fat ones to be on the outside, just based on how many fats, mediums, and smalls you have. So that's most likely going to be your outer edge. And your most inner edge, because you have so few of these skinnies, is probably going to be these little guys. The skinnies are going to be kind of around your square here. And then to connect the inside to the outside, you're going to have these medium guys, like so. So you're going to have skinny on the inside, medium, and then fat. Just based on numbers, it's just an elegant way to do it. So that was my initial theory. I guess it could have been wrong, but just numbers wise, it really matched up, and that is how it's laid out. All right, so we're gonna get some of these out of the way, and we're gonna deal with our inner section first. So we have our square, and we have these skinnies around it. There are 2 options. You can either have our identical pieces be parallel to each other, or they can be at an angle to each other for the pairings. And that's the only way that you can, there are only 2 options. So to figure out what that is pretty apparent, because here are your skinnies that are going to go around it to connect the whole thing. And as you know, you have 2 that are unique. So you can't have it be perfectly parallel to each other, because then you would need these 2 to be the same type of piece, those 2 to be the same type of piece. And clearly we have 3 kinds of pieces. So you need them to be at an angle from each other. That way, when they're at an angle from each other, these unique pieces have a place to go. You can pop this guy in here, and you can pop this one in here. So it's the only way to do our inner circle of skinnies. So we're feeling pretty good about layer 1. So let's move on to the next one. We're gonna have these guys and these guys. Again, you're faced with the same thing. Where are you gonna be putting your identical ones across from each other or at an angle from each other? And we know that we have these guys for our skinny and medium pieces, and then these ones that'll connect the corners, because these are all medium. So you can kind of guess that's going to be similar to the inner circle, but let's test it out. So every single one of these is going to be, you're matching to you need to put in an outie, a flat, an innie, outie, flat, innie, outie, flat, innie, right? So we can first just kind of set all these guys up so that we can play around with them. So set them all up so that you have your outie, flat, innie going on. All right, so now that we have this, again, the question is, are these guys gonna be across from each other, or are they gonna be an angle from each other? And here's where you having these unique pieces comes into play. Because right now, as is, when they're across from each other, everything's all beautiful and symmetrical, and you would need these to be not unique. You would need 2 types of pieces, and we have 3. So you know that you can't have these pairing right across from each other. They have to be at an angle from each other, like so. That way, again, you have a spot for those unique pieces to go, to fit in. You don't want things to be symmetrical the whole way, or those unique pieces don't have a place to go. All right, so that is the only way we can do our inner circle, and our middle circle, we're feeling pretty good. Now it's the last circle. So again, we're gonna want these guys to be here, and then the corners in some way. And we again are faced with, do our identical pairs go across from each other at an angle? You can probably deduce by now the pattern here that we're gonna want them at an angle from each other. But it doesn't take long to prove that that having them across from each other is just not going to work. So we can just kind of prove it real quick. All right, there you go. Not going to be able to make this work here. It's not going to fit. So, no problem. We already kind of suspected that. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it so that these 2 guys are going to go at an angle from each other, and then we're going to go ahead and just fit everything else into place. And that is my approach to the wave puzzle.